Before the success stories, the progress, there was you. You who made a choice to grow, to inspire, to overcome your own challenges. At NASM, we're in service of your limitless potential because when you keep growing, we all get stronger. And we'll never stop making your journey our mission. Join the fitness leader. Become a fitness leader. Become a certified personal trainer.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts here with my friend and co-host, Ken Miller. Ken, how's it going?
Everything's great, Wendy. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you. Well, I'm going to introduce, we have a very special guest today. We have Dr. Jeremy Townsend joining us, and he is a PhD in exercise physiology. He got that from the University of Central Florida and has published, y'all ready for this, over 80 peer-reviewed research articles focusing on everything from sports nutrition, exercise performance, skeletal muscle physiology, dietary supplementation, and I could go on and on. So we are really, really excited to bring Dr. Townsend on, and he's going to join us so we can pick his brain a little bit more.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah. So, Dr. Townsend, Wendy brought up a little bit about you and your vast background as we read over your CV. But you mind sharing with us a little bit about what you do today and what kind of brought you here with the the vast array of things that you've done with exercise and nutrition?
Yeah, so right now I am the research manager at AG1. So I manage a lot of the background research behind a lot of our educational materials. I also am currently, coordinating some of our original research studies, both in vitro and in clinical trial models. And so that's what I do today. I came to AG1 from academia, where I did a lot of research on various dietary supplements. So I was an athlete. I was an okay athlete, and I wanted to maximize my potential. And that's when I learned about lifting weights, eating right, and my research morphed into how to optimize hypertrophy, body composition, and a lot of that then transitioned into various dietary supplements. So just really wanted to maximize my ability, and that's what kind of fueled my passion for all these different topics.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to dive in based on what you just said and want to ask you the question that we get the most as trainers. Why should I take supplements, or should I take supplements? And then can you talk to us a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of supplementation in comparison to eating the proper diet that we know we need to?
Yeah, of course. I am a big proponent of a foods first approach of trying to get as much nutrients you can from your whole food diet, so fruits, vegetables, high quality meats. But the reality is that many of us are busy, or we have other issues where we just can't get enough food and we don't get enough micronutrients or macronutrients to meet our goals. So for many individuals, consuming whether it's macronutrients like protein powder or carbohydrate drinks during exercise, or for many of us to cover our nutritional basis of a multivitamin or some product that gives you other types of nutrients, really helps to have everybody kind of on a level playing field as far as nutrition, because we want to eat well. But the reality is that even if you think you're eating the perfect diet, you're likely going to be deficient in certain minerals and vitamins. And I just am a big proponent because it's very simple. So why not kind of cover your nutritional basis? Right.
So you mentioned a key word there, busy. Like Wendy and I will bring up every now and then our collective children and all the activities that they have. And there's one thing for me to try and focus on my nutrient, trying to get my nutrient intake the way it should be. But I'm the same way with trying to do the same thing with my kids. Now on our shelf, you'll see powders, you'll see pills. What's a good form to take these nutrients in? I mean, there's a lot of options there. You go down the supplement aisle, there's a lot of things that you can choose as far as, in which format you're going to take it in. is the best thing that you found that will help the delivery system for those nutrients?
Yeah. How many kids you guys have?
I have 2 and Wendy has 1.
Okay.
So we're busy either way.
Yeah, I'm busy too. I have 4 in my house right now. So
Oh,
I get being busy, which is probably why I'm leaning towards a shake or a supplement that helps me kind of meet those goals. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of different forms. They have gummies out there, pills. I'm a big fan of powders. The reason why is because we actually did a study here at AG1 in a simulated model of this GI tract, and we showed that when you provided a multivitamin in the form of a liquid, those minerals and vitamins were more accessible during the digestion process. They're easier to digest and they're more available for the body. So plus you get the hydration component of it. And usually I also like a shake form of supplements because I can kind of add them together. I get, save time with protein and with AG1, with other types of supplements. It's just easier to get it all in one for me. But some people prefer pills for gummies, but powders seem to be the ones that are easiest to digest and are available more readily. Good question.
Now, what are your kids' favorite flavors? What's the favorite flavor in your house?
It depends on the day, but chocolate's usually a pretty basic one they all can agree on most times.
Most times, right.
So Dr. Townsend, I get this question a lot when supplements start to get into the conversation. Are they completely unregulated? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about, is that really true? Do we know what's on the shelf? Is that really what we're ingesting?
Yeah, great question. So I get this question a lot as well, especially from students when I teach my dietary supplements or sport nutrition classes. And what many people think is that supplements are completely unregulated, and that just isn't true. They're just regulated differently than your pharmaceutical drugs. So the FDA, if you have a drug that's coming to market, they regulate it on the front end to make sure they have approval before they can bring it to mass market. Whereas dietary supplements are regulated by post-market surveillance. So the FDA really does a good job at tracking the safety of supplements post-market and setting warning letters and taking those supplements off the shelf. The FTC, which is in charge of advertising, are very diligent in making sure that these supplements are advertised in a truthful and transparent way, that you have data to back up the claims that you're making. So these are very much regulated. There's also something called good manufacturing processes, which makes sure that your supplements don't end up with unsafe levels of heavy metals or other things. So they are regulated just in a little bit different way than maybe your other types of drugs you get from the doctor are.
So just a follow-up question on that then, for the processes that you mentioned, are these things that we can look for on labels? Are there designation on labels that we can say, okay, this product has it, this doesn't, and that way we can have confidence when we purchase?
Yes, that's a great question. So on a product, if you want to make sure that it's been third-party tested before you ever get it, there are 2 different organizations, 2 big ones that provide those services to companies. So you can put the seal on your product. Everyone knows that it's safe for consumption. So one of those is NSF. That's what we have at AG1. Mm-hmm. Is really high quality standards of they actually make sure that they test to make sure that what you put on the label is actually what you put in the product, and also that it will have the exact ingredients that you say that you're providing to people. So that's one of them. The other one is called Informed Choice. That's a little bit more popular in the UK or in Europe, but they're both great organizations, and they just provide a lot of peace of mind when you're trying to decide between supplements. I also generally like to tell people to stick with more reputable, larger companies, because simply they've often been around for a while, and they have these processes in place in addition to the seals to make sure their products are safe and people can have confidence in it.
So Dr. Townsend, I'm the one that usually goes off script. So here we go. Here's the first one. And this is a question that we ask a lot of our people that come onto the show, especially when they have such a vast background and has done as much research as you have. What are supplements that you would recommend for most every population that's out there, whether you're young? Is there a difference between your youth athletes, someone like myself that wants to be active with my kids, and then your seniors?
Yeah, there are some things when you're a youth athlete, it's a little bit different because most products are approved for 18 and up. So that's more of a check with your doctor to make sure that everything's okay for youth athletes. But there are some products for youth athletes that are safe to take. I mean, protein powder, carbohydrate drinks are great for fueling athletes. Pretty much for everybody out there in the public. And I'm a little biased, obviously, but we have AG1, and the idea behind it was it is meant to be the right dose for everybody. So your mom, your grandma, your dad, yourself, your uncle, your brother, there's not ingredients at very, very high levels. So it's really safe for everyone to take. Along those lines, I'm also a big fan of, I've mentioned protein powder, but creatine. There's a lot of potential to, depending on who you talk to, there's some myths around creatine as well. But it's been shown to, really support muscular health, help improve strength, body composition, and also has some really cool data now on how it might improve cognition and memory. So those are some of the ones, obviously AG1, but also protein, creatine are ones I generally recommend for anybody, no matter who they are.
Nice. That's really good because, I like, I take creatine every day. So thanks for confirming my choice in supplementation. But one thing that does come up now a lot more, I don't know if it's just coming through my social media feed or questions I get from my clients, but when we talk about supplementation, you're not that far from talking about things like probiotics. Now, that's something that's been out there for decades now, but would you mind shedding some light on probiotics, what they are, and why somebody would or should take it?
Yeah, of course. So probiotics, you're right, they've been around for a while. And about 10 years ago, I started getting really interested in them because they have some profound effects on the immune system and immune health. So I'll get to that here in a little bit. But what are probiotics? They're simply these live bacteria that when you consume them through foods, through powder, through pill, provide a benefit to the host or the human. So basically, they are good microbes that help stimulate certain areas, certain pathways in the body to promote health. So many people probably are realizing now that the gut has a big influence on the entire body, and you have over 1,000 different species of bacteria that are living in your gut. And so they're already there, but when you provide probiotics, it can optimize those communities. So it can provide specific bacteria that can have certain actions, or what it can do is kind of crowd out the bad bacteria that might lead to malabsorption of nutrients or inflammation and whatnot. So they're basically these bacteria that work in different ways, but they provide some sort of benefit when you consume those.
Perfect. And today on Random Fit, myself, Wendy Batts, is here with my co-host, Ken Miller, and we have a very special guest, Dr. Jeremy Townsend, joining us. And he is talking to us about enhancing fitness. And so far, we've talked a little bit about supplementation. Now we're diving into probiotics. And so that was a great explanation so far about what probiotics are, Dr. Townsend. But can you talk a little bit more about with these, when we're talking probiotics, what conditions or health issues can probiotics help with?
Yeah, great question. So I became initially interested in them because as an athlete, I would always get sick towards the end of my season, during finals time, when things were really stressful. We were traveling a lot. And a lot of the data when athletes or exercising individuals came out showing that when athletes, whether it be endurance athletes or other people who are at high levels of activity, consume probiotics, they were able to get through their competitive season without getting sick, or the overall rate of illness or severity of illness was lowered consuming these probiotics. So I was thinking, hey, maybe they might directly enhance performance, but if it allows me to stay in the gym, if it allows athletes to continue to train at a high level, that could be something that would be really interesting to kind of supplement some other nutritional strategies. So immune health is one of the ones that has been studied the most, is probably shared among many different probiotics.
And so since we talked a little bit about supplementation, but we also talked about coming from a food first standpoint before supplementation. If somebody were to try to incorporate more probiotics into their diet, what sources or what should they look for if they're going to the grocery store and they're going again around the circumference on the outside shelves of the grocery store? What food choices can somebody make if they wanted to take a food first approach to incorporating more probiotic into their diet?
Yeah, great question. So there are a lot of foods that are that have kind of natural probiotics in them. Kefir, kombucha, yogurt. Sometimes you see other products now that have probiotics specifically added to them, and so those are also very healthy to consume. If you are making your own kombucha or you're eating a lot of sauerkraut, that can provide good bacteria in your gut. The only downside is that if you're trying to go after a specific health benefit that you saw from a probiotic research study or you heard in the news, when you consume the foods, you're getting good bacteria. You're just not sure what species, what type, what strain you're actually getting. When you kind of either consume a food that's been a specific strain or species has been added to it, or you consume a probiotic that is clearly documented, this was the one that provided the immune benefits or the blood sugar control, it'd be more pertinent to take the one that's very specific to the health outcome over just consuming food. So fermentable foods, great. If you're looking for a specific benefit, you probably need to go find those probiotic species to consume. So that's one reason why maybe supplementing for probiotics may be better, because if you're looking for a specific gut health or immune health benefit.
So more sauerkraut on my hot dog isn't just gonna take care of things for me. I got it.
It's good. It's good to do both, right? Taking probiotics, but then also consuming these foods that have probiotics are both great.
Well, it is a mystery what's in that hot dog, though, Ken, too.
Yeah, I do.
Hot dog's the other issue. I know we're coming on summer, but hey.
I'll go ahead and say it. I will be open with it. But you had mentioned a little bit about probiotics and athletic performance, or recovery. So can you talk a little bit more in detail about that and what you found?
Yeah, so there is data out there showing that when you consume probiotics, there's some studies that show that it can enhance recovery. There's some research by Ralph Yeager where he had individuals do a muscle damaging exercise. In the days following, it appeared that they were recovering faster from that exercise. So, and there's also some data by Dr. Chad Kirksick showing that certain probiotic strains actually may enhance your ability to absorb and utilize protein. So potentially you're able to recover better, or maybe leading to long-term muscle growth because you're absorbing the nutrients from your food in a more efficient manner. So the data there is still emerging, but I think a lot of it's around, hey, it's keep you in the gym, keep you on the field training, but also may help you utilize the nutrients in your food to a greater degree.
Well, can I piggyback? I have another question? Yeah. Just really quick on when we're talking probiotics and we're talking food and we're talking supplementation, what's the amount that you recommend?
As far as probiotics or just the amount of supplements? So generally, probiotics need to have at least what's called 1 billion CFUs. It's the way that they count probiotics. And so if you look at a probiotic label, you'll see a probiotic name. So it might be Lactobacillus acidophilus or Bifidobacterium bifidum. And generally, when you take those species, other organizations have decided that taking at least 1 billion CFUs can provide a benefit to the person who's taking it. So if you see the name, you kind of scroll over, it should say, 3 CFUs, 10 CFUs, 1 CFUs. And as long as there's at least one, you can be pretty confident that you're going to receive a benefit from that probiotic.
Thanks.
No, that's great to know, because if you look at yogurt, it'll have that. It'll have that on there. But also, if you're going down the aisle again, I spent a little bit of time in the supplement aisle. I'm just confused, right? But when you're looking at the labels, you don't know what those numbers and those acronyms and those letters mean. So that's a lot of good information, especially when it comes to, if I'm trying to make the best decision for me or my family, I want to make the right investment. So that information definitely helps out.
Yeah, and probiotic labels are just a little bit different than other supplements, so it is kind of confusing. But along that lines, when you get like an NSF or an informed choice product, they don't only check the vitamins, minerals, the other ingredients. They also make sure that your CFU count is accurate as well. So that's what's one benefit of choosing those those products with verification on them.
Now, just a follow up to that, then, with those different species of probiotics that you talked about, are there certain species that I want to look for when it comes to performance, or certain species when it comes to health and immunity, like you mentioned before, or is it just the more the better?
Yeah. So I did say immune health if you're thinking about athletes, but also it does improve overall gut health with people who have GI issues and other things around exercise. That's also, I forgot to mention, that's one reason why athletes choose to take it. Runners have a lot of GI distress when they run, and probiotics have been shown to kind of help alleviate that. Some of the most well-studied species of probiotics are Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidobacterium bifidum. There's also ones like LGG, you'll see, Lactobacillus rhamnos GG is a very, very well-studied probiotic species out there. There's other numerous ones out there. So for athletes, the one that I talked about before with recovery and protein utilization is Bacillus coagulans. So that's one that you should look for if it's more of like a protein digestion utilization type of avenue. But there are a number. The ones I mentioned have probably the ones that have been studied the most in the past 4 decades of kind of probiotic research.
I'm so glad you're the one that has to pronounce all this. So thank you for all that.
we have a microbiologist, a gut microbiome specialist that works at AG1, and so he's kind of coached us all about how to accurately pronounce these names. Otherwise, I'd be saying them completely wrong. I probably still am, actually.
Well, it sounds good to me. So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and flip the switch a little bit, and we do have this as our topic too. But adaptogens, can you talk to us? I had never really, I didn't know that much about it until we learned through you that you wanted to discuss this. So, can you talk to us about what they are, and then also go into a little bit more about how they work?
Yeah. So adaptogens are interesting and becoming more popular. And when I first started hearing about them, I was like, what is an adaptogen? What does that even mean? Like, it doesn't give me any idea of what they actually do. And so when I started doing my own research on it, I realized, they're just similar to other types of supplements you take. They're just phytonutrients. They're these compounds in plants that have certain activities and certain pathways in the body to promote a beneficial health effect. And adaptogens specifically have these phytonutrients that help our bodies manage stress and kind of restore balance after a stressful condition. So really, a lot of the research on adaptogens shows a calmer mood, lower anxiety, maybe increased focus, or just resiliency to stress overall. So that's kind of in general how most of them work. They're all a little bit nuanced and work differently, but in general, they help you with stress.
And what are some sources for these adaptogens, or what should I look for when it comes to?
Tell me more.
Yeah. So this is one of those areas that you're not going to get it through your normal diet. You'd have to specifically seek out certain supplements to actually get the benefits. So one of the ones that I'm a big fan of is rhodiola. This has a lot of really good data on lowering stress, allowing individuals to perform at a very stressful job. They did studies on doctors and night shift workers and how they're actually able to maintain their mood and be less stressed. There's also some data around athletes and showing it when they take rhodiola, they have a lower perception of fatigue. So basically they can run farther, they can work harder and not feel as tired. That's one that I'm a big fan of. Another one that's really popular is ashwagandha. This one also has some data around improving mood, stress, and even has some emerging data around improving sleep patterns as well. So those are probably the two that are the most popular that you'll probably hear on other podcasts or in the popular media as well.
That's great information, because both Wendy and I, and I'm sure you have clients too, that they're not just athletes, you know, we're talking about business professionals. You mentioned doctors and nurses already, but if you have somebody who's basically a road warrior, like I have a client who's gone from, you know, her house, you know, 3 weeks out of the month, and even then she's gone 3 to 4 days out of the week when she does have to travel. So how would I suggest her kind of implementing these strategies to manage her stress because of jet lag? She's trying to keep up with her exercise routine, and she's, you know, she's a CEO, and she's, you know, she's got to stay focused and try to, you know, stay as healthy as she can, because when she comes back, she's just one of those that her immune system's tanked, right? So how would she incorporate trying to, you know, get more of that adaptogen into her lifestyle?
Yeah. So you make a really good point. And I talk a lot about athletes. That's kind of my background. But at AG1, we just have this term called life-leets. Like really a lot of these, you know, the probiotics, the adaptogens are for just high performing individuals. And that just doesn't mean just on, you know, in the gym or on the field. It's a stress of life, right? So I think adaptogens are probably one of those things that may be just as beneficial or more beneficial to those who are just performing at a high level. And what we also found in the research is that those who are, like you mentioned, on the road, traveling a lot, often have an increased rate of GI issues. So, you know, probiotics, the adaptogens for the stress levels can really help these individuals kind of overall manage the challenges of their schedule. And really, it's probably best, considering they're on the road, they're performing at a high level, have, you know, little time for you know, robust meal prep. That supplementation, as far as adaptogens and probiotics, are probably preferred for these individuals.
Perfect. Well, I know there was another question that came in, so I'm going to ask you this. It says, which dietary supplements are safe and effective for enhancing muscle growth?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. I've already mentioned the ones that are like the hallmarks, right? Protein and creatine. Creatine is, again, people have misconceptions of what it is. It's really an energy substrate. So it allows you to do more work in the gym or on the field or on the road. And that work that you're doing creates more muscle growth over time. So most supplements that allow for muscle growth are allowing you to do more work. So get a few extra reps, a little bit of heavier weight. So creatine is one of those. Another one is beta alanine. If you are somebody who does a lot of high volume work, so a lot of reps, a lot of sets, beta alanine can delay fatigue and allow you to increase your performance. Another one that I'm really interested in as of late are these we call nitric oxide precursors. And back in the day, people were taking arginine because they felt like it improved blood flow to different areas. And now we realize that there's these things called dietary nitrates, like in beetroot juice, or citrulline, which is another amino acid. They're actually more effective at improving that blood flow. So the idea is that there's more blood flow to the muscle, more oxygen being delivered, more nutrients. And over time, that can contribute to the nutrients helping you grow, but also allowing you to do more work in the gym. So right now, I'm really high on, you know, creatine, protein, dietary nitrates, and beta alanine for if I'm gonna pick the ones that and caffeine, because it allows you to get in the gym as well. So that's one I would throw in there as well. Usually they're indirectly increasing muscle growth because you're doing more work.
So I have, based on what you said, Ken, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
you were talking about creatine, and this is the question that I've gotten from a client as of late. And so I would like to know your opinion. When they started taking it, they felt like they were just thick, or like that they were like gaining weight. I don't know how to describe it. So but it was only when they started to incorporate creatine into their body. So is it holding water? What's happening in the very beginning when you start putting creatine in your body? Why do people feel this way?
That's a good question. And that's a question I get a lot as well. And it is variable based on the person. So creatine does allow for additional water retention in some individuals. So this might be the reason why some people feel like they are, they're kind of bloating or they have a little bit of water retention, but it is highly individual. So I actually did a study. One of my master's students did a study in my lab, Philip Sapp, and he basically looked at creatine loading with carbohydrates or by itself. And and we tracked how it made their muscle swell and how much water they were retaining. And it was really interesting that everybody had a really variable response. Like I was one of the participants, I retained quite a bit of water, whereas others consumed a lot of creatine and had almost zero water retention. So it really depends on the person. If they're feeling like they are retaining water, sometimes over time that will kind of even out and they won't notice it quite as much, or they can always lower the dose. Sometimes when people retain water from creatine, it's because they're doing the loading phase, which is taking like 3 or 4 doses every day for the first 5 days. But if you just take 1 5-gram dose a day, you generally see people don't feel quite as bloated when they take creatine. So could be the person, could be the way they're taking it. It kind of depends, but that is a phenomenon you see, common.
If they take it every day, Dr. Townsend, will it eventually go away? Or is it something that as long as they're taking it, that's just how their body's going to be?
Yeah, you actually start to store it in the muscle and different tissues as you take it. So taking it every day, in my opinion, is the way to go. Some people do the loading phase to rapidly, increase muscle creatine stores. But if you take it 5 grams every day, you'll eventually reach the same amount. And there's also no need to cycle it. So if you take creatine for 30 days, your body doesn't stop processing creatine or stop absorbing creatine. And so if you take too much, your body will just excrete it naturally. So it's really a safe compound to take. And 5 grams a day, you can take less if you want. 5 grams a day is pretty good for overall performance and health benefits.
All right, so we've got Dr. Jeremy Townsend here on this episode of Random Fit. We're talking about enhancing fitness and the role of probiotics and antigens. So thanks for sharing that bit of information when it comes to creatine, because that's one of those that, as you can imagine, my high schoolers, my college kids, and even adults who are looking to make that physical changes, they want to appear bigger, whether they're stronger or not. I have that segment that I just want to look bigger. If I get 10 more, 20 more pounds on my bench press, I'll be happy. But if I can look better by spring break or summer, that's the goal for some of the cosmetic side. But as you mentioned, when I started taking creatine, the weight on the scale definitely goes up for me, at least 6 or 7 pounds on the scale after a good three. I like to think it's because of hard work, but as soon as I stop, that's when my weight on the scale drops. And that's something that I have to break to them. It's like, you can start it, you'll see changes, but to your point, you stop it, you're gonna see changes the other way as well.
Yeah, and that's something that people can also use kind of strategically as well. Like if there's a time where they don't care if they feel a little bit heavier or bigger, you can take it, achieve the benefits from it, and then go off of it, and all the water will leave your body and you'll feel leaner afterwards. So like combat athletes or people who have weight restricted sports, they'll take it, they'll stop taking it before weigh-ins, the weight goes back down, or for the lay person, they'll take it. Then when they're getting ready to go to the beach, they'll stop taking it. They'll lose the water weight, and you still get the benefits while kind of mitigating some of the things that might be unwanted. You might want it if you're trying to look big. You might not want it depending on your situation. Good point.
Yeah, I've had to explain this to my clients because I'm telling them it's really good for their brain health based on the latest research that I've read. So they go invest in it. And this happened to me as well. And I'm like, man, I'm getting bigger. I'm getting bloated. I don't like any of this. Yeah. But I also want my brain to be better. So it's kind of like a give or take. So anyway, but so Dr. Townsend, I could keep you on, and I know Ken could too. We could just pick your brain all day. But just to kind of wrap up everything, what would be the one thing you would want to leave our audience? Because we've talked about a ton of unbelievable information, especially around all the different topics that we've covered. So what would you like to leave us with?
Yeah, I think something that is just becoming more and more evident to me as I do more research, whether you're an athlete, you're elderly, you have a certain special health condition, is just like the gut plays so much of a role in a lot of the different parts of the body. So we have something called the gut-brain axis. When you optimize your gut health, you feel better. You have higher levels of serotonin, that feel good, transmitter. There's interactions with the muscle, with the heart, with the pancreas, all these other types of parts of the body. And so what I've come to find is just we're learning more and more just about how making sure you have good gut health, whether it's probiotics or just eating a lot of really good foods that are high in nutrients, is probably a really good suggestion for any individual in any population, because it will have profound effects on their health, either from directly changing an ailment they have, or it might just improve your ability to absorb nutrients from your food. So I think that's something that keep gut health in your mind as you make decisions with food and supplements, because I think people will benefit from it.
Awesome. That's great, because I mean, one of the things that's out there now is when it comes to gut health, your gut, you can look at that as a second brain. That's how close as you're talking about. They work hand in hand. You take care of one, you're going to take care of the other. So thanks for that final point, doctors. So appreciate you having here. Like Wendy said, ton of information, and definitely want to get people to be able to reach out to you if they can. Is there an ideal contact information that you want to share?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It might be easy, or you can shoot me an email. My email is just jeremy.townsend@drinkag1.com. So either one of those, probably respond. Maybe email, probably I'll respond quicker. But yeah, I would love for people just to reach out if they have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for those of you listening to us here on Random Fit, we just had a great interview with Dr. Jeremy Townsend. So if you like this interview and got a lot out of it, please like, follow, share, subscribe, download, rate us 5 out of 5 if you can, but we certainly appreciate you listening. Well, please do. Like, follow, subscribe. And until next time, everybody, take care and be well.